The moment everything went dark, Hannah barely had time to tighten her arms around her baby before the world slipped away from her, and the cold concrete of a crowded train station in Chicago rushed up to meet them. The echo of departing trains, the rush of hurried footsteps, and the sharp whistle of the platform blurred into a distant hum as her strength finally gave out. She had been fighting exhaustion, hunger, and fear for weeks, but in that instant, all she could feel was the fragile weight of her infant son against her chest and the terrifying thought that no one might notice them in time. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected love, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel, because stories like this remind us that even in the darkest moments, hope can arrive from the most unexpected places. Hannah's life had not always been this way. Just 2 years earlier, she had been a bright, hopeful woman with plans, dreams, and a quiet belief that hard work could protect her from heartbreak. She had married young, trusting the promises of a man who seemed kind at first but slowly revealed a colder side. By the time she realized how fragile her marriage truly was, she was already pregnant, clinging to the hope that a child might soften the walls around her husband's heart. Instead, the pressure of responsibility only pushed him further away, until one bitter winter morning, he packed his bags and left without looking back. With no close family nearby and only a small savings account that drained faster than she imagined, Hannah was forced to make impossible choices. She sold her car, left her apartment, and began traveling between shelters and temporary jobs, always carrying her growing belly and a fragile sense of determination. When baby Noah was born, Hannah felt both overwhelming love and crushing fear. The tiny fingers wrapped around hers gave her strength, yet the reality of raising a child alone in an unforgiving world weighed heavily on her chest. She took cleaning jobs, worked in diners, and accepted any shift she could find, often surviving on little more than coffee and cheap snacks. The exhaustion built slowly but relentlessly, and as winter turned to spring, her body began to fail her. One evening, after a long shift and a sleepless night soothing a crying baby, she boarded a train to reach a temporary job interview in another city, hoping desperately for a better opportunity. But the long hours, lack of proper meals, and emotional strain finally caught up with her, and as she stepped onto the crowded platform, her vision blurred, her legs trembled, and the world faded away. Ethan had not planned to be at that station that morning. A mechanical failure had delayed his usual route to work, forcing him onto a different train, one he rarely took. He was a quiet, observant man in his early 30s, working as a building inspector, living a simple life shaped by loss and responsibility. Years earlier, he had lost his younger sister in a tragic accident, an event that changed the way he saw the world and the people in it. Since then, he carried a silent promise to always pay attention, to never look away from someone in need. That promise stirred in his chest when he noticed a young woman swaying unsteadily near the edge of the platform, her face pale, her arms trembling as she clutched a bundled infant. Before anyone else fully realized what was happening, she collapsed. Ethan reached her just in time, catching the baby first and lowering Hannah carefully to the ground. Panic rippled through the crowd, but his calm presence cut through the chaos. He signaled for help, called emergency services, and shielded the baby from the cold air with his jacket. As he waited, he studied the woman's exhausted face, the dark circles beneath her eyes, and the thin frame that spoke of long days without enough rest or nourishment. The baby whimpered softly, and Ethan instinctively rocked him, feeling a familiar ache in his chest, a reminder of what he had lost and what still mattered. At the hospital, doctors confirmed that Hannah had collapsed from severe exhaustion, dehydration, and low blood sugar. She would recover, they said, but her situation was dangerous, especially with a newborn to care for. Ethan stayed, holding the baby while nurses worked, waiting until Hannah regained consciousness. When her eyes finally fluttered open, fear rushed through her expression, followed by confusion and then tears as she realized where she was and who held her child. Ethan gently placed Noah back into her arms, offering a reassuring smile and quietly explaining what had happened. Though she barely had the strength to speak, gratitude poured from her eyes. In the days that followed, Ethan could not forget Hannah and her baby. Something about her quiet resilience and the fragile way she held her son stayed with him, tugging at his heart long after he returned to his normal routine. He reached out through the hospital's social worker, offering help, not as charity, but as support. He arranged temporary housing, connected her with community resources, and checked in regularly to ensure she and Noah were safe. What began as concern slowly grew into friendship, built on small acts of kindness and moments of shared vulnerability. Hannah, still shaken by her collapse, struggled with feelings of shame and inadequacy. She had always prided herself on independence, and accepting help felt like admitting failure. Yet each time Ethan showed up, bringing groceries, diapers, or simply a warm smile, her defenses softened. He never judged her, never treated her like a burden. Instead, he listened. She told him about her dreams of becoming a nurse, her love for old movies, and her fears of raising a child alone. He shared stories of his sister, of how loss had taught him to cherish fleeting connections. Their conversations, quiet and sincere, became the steady rhythm that anchored both of them. As months passed, Hannah regained her strength. She found part-time work at a local clinic, where her gentle nature and first-hand understanding of hardship made her a comfort to patients. Noah grew stronger, his laughter filling the small apartment they now called home. Ethan remained a constant presence, helping with late-night feedings, celebrating first milestones, and offering encouragement during moments of doubt. Slowly, a deeper bond formed, one neither of them rushed nor questioned. It unfolded naturally, shaped by trust, shared struggles, and a mutual longing for stability. The turning point came on a rainy autumn evening when a sudden storm knocked out power across the neighborhood. Candles flickered in the dim apartment as rain hammered against the windows. Hannah watched Ethan soothe a restless Noah, his movements gentle and practiced, and something shifted inside her. In that moment, she realized that he had become more than a friend, more than a helper. He was home. The fear that had once ruled her life began to loosen its grip, replaced by a fragile but growing hope. Their relationship deepened quietly, without grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It was built on consistency, on showing up, on choosing each other day after day. They navigated the complexities of blending lives, balancing work schedules, and raising a child together. There were disagreements, moments of exhaustion, and the lingering shadows of past pain, but they faced each challenge side by side. With each passing season, their connection strengthened, rooted in gratitude and a shared understanding of how close they had come to losing everything. 1 year after the day Hannah collapsed at the train station, Ethan took her back to the same platform. The memory still made her chest tighten, but this time, she stood tall, Noah cradled safely in her arms, warmth in her heart. As trains rushed by and commuters hurried past, Ethan knelt before her, holding out a simple ring, his eyes steady and sincere. The moment felt surreal, as if time itself had folded in on them, transforming fear into promise. Hannah said yes through tears, her voice trembling with emotion and disbelief. Their wedding was small, held in a quiet park surrounded by a handful of friends and neighbors who had become family. The ceremony was simple, but every detail carried meaning, from the soft breeze rustling through the trees to Noah's delighted giggles echoing across the grass. As Hannah walked toward Ethan, she reflected on the long journey that had led her there, the nights spent wondering if she and her child would survive, the strangers who had offered kindness when she needed it most, and the man who had become her partner, protector, and love. Life after marriage was not perfect, but it was filled with purpose. They built a home grounded in compassion, teaching Noah the value of empathy and resilience. Hannah returned to school, slowly working toward her nursing degree, while Ethan continued his work, now carrying the quiet pride of a husband and father. Together, they volunteered at local shelters and support centers, hoping to pass forward the kindness that had once saved them. Every time Hannah stood on a platform or passed a crowded station, she felt a surge of gratitude, reminded of how close she had come to losing everything and how profoundly one moment had changed her life. As years went by, their story became a testament to the power of human connection, to the idea that even in the bleakest circumstances, compassion can light the way forward. They learned that love does not always arrive in dramatic ways. Sometimes, it appears in the steady hands of a stranger, in the quiet choice to care, in the courage to hope again. And if this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness still exists in this world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe, because your support helps spread these messages of hope and resilience. Before this story ends, we have one special request for you. Please comment the word kindness below if you believe that a single act of compassion can change a life forever. In the end, Hannah often reflected on that fateful morning, the blur of noise, the sudden darkness, and the gentle arms that caught her before she fell. What once felt like the lowest point of her life had become the beginning of something extraordinary. Through loss, struggle, and uncertainty, she had found love, stability, and a future she never dared to imagine. And as she watched Noah grow, surrounded by laughter and warmth, she knew that their story would forever stand as proof that sometimes, the greatest miracles begin with a stranger's simple decision to care.